All right, what's up, guys? What's up? Welcome to another edition of the Nolan Show. It is June 1st, 2023. The Yankees, they lost last night, but Aaron Judge has been absolutely outstanding since his return, since May 9th. We're going to get right into it. You see it to the right of my screen. 342 batting average, 12 home runs, and 25 RBIs since he's returned. Also going to be talking Mets. Don't worry. We're going to get into those Mets who just came off of a sweep for the Philadelphia Phillies. Looking pretty good. Their pitching staff has been a struggle all season long. Max Scherzer came out and he gave the Mets his fourth consecutive great start in a row. In his last four starts now, he's like 3-0 with a 1.08 ERA. Kodai Senga, he went 7 innings, 9 Ks the other day, only let up 1 hit. And then even Carlos Carrasco last night, he even gave 6 innings to the New York Mets. And the New York Mets, I saw a stat just last night that they are undefeated this season when a Mets pitcher goes 6 or more innings. We're going to be talking about that. Obviously, the NBA Finals, the Denver Nuggets, they look absolutely dominant. I mean, Nikola Jokic, he's unstoppable. A triple-double. He became the second player in NBA history to ever make his NBA Finals debut and record a triple-double. And then Jamal Murray, one of the most underrated players in all of NBA. So, of course, we're going to be talking about that as well. I think these two, Jokic and Murray, they're cementing themselves as an all-time great duo. All-time great duo. I think Nikola Jokic has cemented himself as an all-time great, but all-time great duo, 100%. So we're going to be getting into all of it. Oh, and then, of course, Jets and Giants. Stay with me because I'm going to be popping them up on the screen at the end of the show. If you guys want to do it with me right here, we're going to be doing some over-unders for the Jets and the Giants later. We got Aaron Rodgers and Daniel Jones predictions, my predictions, what I think that they can eclipse or maybe not eclipse. So I'm flashing them right up here just for a little preview of what I'm going to be diving into a little bit later on the show. But Aaron Judge, man, Aaron Judge, since he's returned, right there, 342 batting average. That's actually ridiculous. 26 hits, 12 home runs, 25 RBIs. And keep in mind, he's only played 21 games since he's returned. 26 RBIs in 21 games. He hits like 2 home runs a night every other night. He's ridiculous. He's on pace. I'm going to put it right up here on the screen. Aaron Judge is already on pace for 63 home runs. I've said it before. I've said it numerous times 10 days ago on my last pod. I'm sorry I took a little bit of a long break. Moving up to Saratoga. So I'm packing up this studio, moving it up to state. But Aaron Judge, best player in baseball, I was talking about on my last pod, undoubtedly better than Mike Trout. Undoubtedly better than Shohei Ohtani. I don't care that Ohtani can pitch and hit. He's a two-way player. Who cares? Judge is carrying the New York Yankees. They're 19-10 since May 1st. Now, Judge came back May 9th, but a little bit before Judge came back, around when Harrison Bader came back, the Yankees really started to get going. And since Judge came back, they've been absolutely on fire. So in just 21 games, 25 RBIs, yada, yada, yada. But outside of Judge, everybody knows how much I love Judge. Outside of Judge, though, this Yankees team has been doing pretty good. Luis Severino, he's going to be heading to L.A., getting that first start against the L.A. Dodgers. They haven't played him in a long time, so it's pretty cool that the Yankees will be facing the Dodgers. 3-game series, you got Severino game 1, Cole game 2. I'm not sure who's listed for game 3 right now, but Severino in his 2 starts so far, he's only let up just 4 hits. So that's something to keep him. No, 5 hits. 5 hits allowed in just his first 2 starts back from the IL. So keep that in mind, Yankees fans. Severino, hopefully he can get going because that's a guy who you really missed early on in the year. And now that he's back healthy, his last start, he looked pretty good. When his first start back, he was all right. Obviously, he was shaky, but that's normal. First start back. So let's see what he can do tomorrow against a very good LA Dodgers lineup. And then Garrett Cole, he's a guy who needs a big start. 5 earned runs in his last 2 starts consecutively. So 10 earned runs altogether, 5 earned runs. It's just not what you expect from Garrett Cole, especially with the way he came out and started the season. He looked like the best pitcher, not just in the American League, but in all of baseball. So we need to see that Garrett Cole back. Severino, got to get him, obviously, really got to get him going. I expect him to, as long as he stays healthy. And then Nestor Cortez, another guy. I mean, he's been up and down all year. He has not been the Nestor Cortez of last year, but if he can just string together like a consistent string of starts, that's all you really need. And then Rodon, I don't know what's going to go on with him. I don't even know if he's ever going to come back. But this Yankees pitching staff, it really needs Cortez, Severino, and Garrett Cole to lift them up, because the lineup we're not worried about. Stanton's going to be back. We got Josh Donaldson coming back for a little third base battle with DJ LeMahieu. That's going to be very interesting. But this lineup is good. It's one of the best in baseball. I mean, you saw it last year. This New York Yankees team, they had the best lineup in baseball for a good portion of the whole entire year. So I'm not surprised to see them really turn on in the month of May. They had a really good month. They had a really good month of May. So, and part of that obviously is Judge being the best player in baseball and returning. But outside of Judge, as I just mentioned, Stanton coming back, Donaldson coming back, Tommy Kahnle coming back. It's huge. The bullpen obviously it's been a pretty bright spot all year for the Yankees. And then Aaron Boone too. I mean, he's shutting a lot of Yankees fans up. He doesn't really give them a reason to complain. And then Anthony Volpe, obviously he struggles here and there, but I mean, what more can you ask from the kid? He's doing his part. But with Donaldson back and the way that Rizzo has been swinging the bat, and obviously the way that Judge has been swinging the bat, now you're going to have a little bit of pressure on LeMahieu. Maybe he can improve now that Donaldson is right behind him. So it's going to be an interesting few weeks as this Yankee schedule is going to heat up a little bit. Obviously, they got the Dodgers for 3. And then after the Dodgers, let's check right here just so I have the official schedule. Then they're heading to Cincinnati, which should be easy. But then they got Philly. So the Phillies, obviously, you just saw them play the Mets. I mean, they got a loaded lineup. Trey Turner has sucked this year. But Bryce Harper, you got to watch out for him, obviously. Kyle Schwarber sucks, too. Most overrated player in baseball. But that's another topic. But the Yankees, I'm really going to be keeping an eye on them, especially with the reinforcements that they do have coming back. As I mentioned, Stanton so far this year, going to get to the comments in just a second after I put this up. His 2023 stats, only a couple games that he's played. I think only 13 total, but an 854 OPS, 269 batting average, right under 270, 4 home runs in those 13 games. So you're looking for a little bit of a jolt from Giancarlo Stanton. Yo, what is up, Chris? Everybody, by the way, make sure you go check out CP New York Sports Pod. He just got that rebrand going. Used to be What's the Static, but now CP New York Sports Pod, another great New York sports content creator. Shout out to him, always doing Mets post games. I did one with him this past Monday, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, or it was Tuesday. I'm messing up my days this week already, Jesus. But yeah, man, make sure you go check him out. Also, shout out to Amish Country Met too, Nelson, always a supporter as well. And just keep grinding, guys. The both of you, I love watching your channel, and yeah, just love collabing and excited to keep collabing in the future. But let me know what you guys think of the Yankees, though, Chris. Do you think this Yankees team, where do you think they're going to head now that they're really third in the AL East right now, 6 games back of the Tampa Bay Rays? The Tampa Bay Rays, they've been 500 basically all of May. So they're not really that team that they were to start out the year. So it's giving Yankees fans a little bit of hope, and there's still a lot of baseball left. So the Yankees, I personally think they're in a good position to get into first place and take it away from the Tampa Bay Rays. They just really got to get their pitching staff going, just like the New York Mets, because the lineup, as I mentioned before, with the guys that they have coming back and with the way that Judge and Rizzo have been swinging all year, you got to be confident as a Yankees fan that this team can take first place back. And basically, I would say hold on to it for the rest of the season once they take it. That's what you hope. Hopefully, going up against Philly, that's really, you got the Dodgers and you got Philly, but Cincinnati after LA, I mean, they're 26-30. They're not going to be an easy out, but you should be able to beat them. And then the Chicago White Sox as well are up. Oh wait, actually, nope, wrong. Dodgers, White Sox, and then Red Sox. So White Sox, Red Sox, the Yankees can beat up on. And then the Subway Series against the Mets, obviously, beat up the Red Sox. So the next 4 series, really, it's just the Mets, honestly, who are the only team that they should be worried about, and the Dodgers, obviously. But the Yankees looking to catch up to the Tampa Bay Rays. And now that we're talking about divisions, I think it's a good time to bring up the New York Mets. June 1st, they sit 3.5 games back of the Atlanta Braves. Pretty good spot. If you told me a month ago that the Mets would only be 3.5 games back at June 1st, second in the National League East, I would have said, okay, I'll take it. Now listen, $364 million payroll. So I'm going to say right here, it is a little bit of an issue when a team's spending that much money. You heard Chris Bassett talking about it the other day. It's not really good for the players. Now, for the owners, they're like, oh, yeah, look at a team like the Tampa Bay Rays not spending money. But when you have this much expectations and you're not meeting them, it is alarming. Now, a lot can change because here's the good part about the New York Mets schedule. We got the Blue Jays, who are the Blue Jays. They are good. Yes, they're fourth in the AL East, but the AL East, obviously, one of the best, if not the best division in baseball. So here we go with the Mets. Looking at their schedule, they do have the Blue Jays, and then after the Blue Jays, they go to the Atlanta Braves, a 3-game series. So if we can take 2 out of 3 against the Blue Jays, keep that 3.5, 3 games of stay within 3 games is all I'm saying after this Blue Jays series. Take 2 out of 3 or even a sweep against Atlanta, which they definitely could. Then I'm liking it because Kodai Senga, I'm not sure. Is he lined up against the go? He's lined up the last game against Toronto, unfortunately, which would be nice, but it's also a home game. So that's got me confident as well. Kodai Senga at home has been absolutely lights out. Let me take off this banner of Giancarlo Stanton. Injury bugs over the next few weeks. Let's flip it back to the Yankees real quick. Injury bugs for the next few weeks will be huge for them with Bader and Rizzo, says Chris. Yeah, I mean, the Yankees, I really just talked about it a little bit before, but now I'm going to get into the Mets. But I know the Yankees are going to be fine. I mean, the Yankees are the Yankees. They're going to make the postseason when you have Aaron Judge on your team. And as long as the pitching staff can stay healthy outside of Rodon, because I don't expect anything out of him this year, I think they're in a good spot. So let's get back into the Mets. Second in the NL East, 3.5 games back. And we got Atlanta coming up. Kodai at home against the Blue Jays. So we should be able to at least take 1 out of 3 from Toronto with the way that he's looked at home this year. It really started with him. His start, his first start against the Phillies in game 1 of this series. He was lights out. 9 strikeouts, no walks, only 1 hit allowed. Just 1 hit allowed. And that's what you want to see out of the guy who was the best pitcher in all of Japan last year. And listen, there was a lot of talk about him too being kind of a disappointment. I think he put that to rest. Now, obviously, he struggled on the road, but with the way he's pitched at home, Kodai Senga legitimately is giving Mets fans hope that he could turn out to be an ace, a legit ace. His home stats right there. You see him 3-1 with a 1.2 ERA. Now that's a much different pitcher than what he is on the road. But if he can just replicate that on the road, then this guy's going to be very good for a very long time for the Mets. He's only 29 years old. He won 6 Japan Series titles when he was in Japan. And Shohei Ohtani, top 5 in Cy Young voting last year. Kodai, in the same league as Ohtani, had better numbers. So I'm not surprised to see Kodai pitch like this at home. And plus, he's going to be a little bit more comfortable. He's coming from another country. So that's a big switch. And then traveling, he's probably not, I'm assuming he's not used to that. And now with him getting used to it a little bit more, hopefully his home stretches can replicate over on the road. And he's going to be dominant, and it's going to be huge for the Mets. Max Scherzer, last 4 starts. You saw it today. He was absolutely lights out today. 7 innings. The Mets needed that. His last 4 starts, you see it right there. 3-0, 1.08 ERA. He's put it to rest that Max Scherzer is done. Max is officially back. He's looking like the best pitcher in this rotation the last 4 games. So you cannot hate on Max Scherzer now anymore. I think we can put to rest that Scherzer is now done. Scherzer is still one of the best pitchers in all of baseball. I mean, we got to think the 30-second pitch clock, or however long it is in between actual batters, actual pitches, um, it's definitely affected him. And it's definitely affected Verlander as well, who I'm going to get into a little bit. But, I mean, Justin Verlander does need a good start, too, because 6 earned runs against Colorado, that's something. But Scherzer, he was brought here 2 years ago to be the best pitcher. He was brought here as insurance in case DeGrom did fail out, leave, and basically get hurt left and right, which is what he did last year, and then he left. Now, Scherzer is supposed to be the ace. He's not just supposed to be Max Scherzer, end of the career, kind of falling off the cliff, giving you a 3-ish ERA. No, he's supposed to be an ace, one of the best pitchers in baseball. He's getting paid $40+ million. In his last 4 starts, he has been one of the best pitchers in baseball. And that's going to help the Mets. That's what the Mets need. Kodai Senga going 7 innings. That's what the Mets need. Carlos Carrasco going 6 innings. That's what the Mets need. They need their pitching. Now, Pete Alonso and Lindor, both of them, now I'm looking at them to both get going a little bit more. They're kind of bailing themselves. They're bailing themselves both out. Pete Alonso hitting home runs left and right. Lindor, the defense that he brings, and then with runners in scoring position, he's one of the best in the league right now. So an interesting topic on Twitter: you open a trade in Kevin Parada for a high-end starting pitcher this deadline. Still a no from me. Now that is interesting because Kevin Parada, the Mets love obviously, but Francisco Alvarez, who I'm gonna pop it up right here. I want to get into him a lot today. Since May 1st, Francisco Alvarez has been hitting 280, 7 home runs, 17 RBIs. Alvarez is really cementing himself as not just one of the best rookies in all of baseball, but one of the best catchers in all of baseball. And he's not just a good hitting catcher. He's looking like an elite hitter. If this translates over a whole entire season, he's not just one of the best hitting catchers. He's one of the best hitters in all of baseball. So that's what you're hoping for. And now I love that you bring up Kevin Parada, Chris, because Parada is obviously behind Alvarez in the system. He got drafted last year, I think, in the first. Yes, it was in the first round. So they value him a lot. They love him. They rave about him. He can rake just like Francisco Alvarez. I'm pretty sure he can play other positions as well, too, which kind of offers him a little bit of flexibility if he were to ever come up. But listen, with the way that Francisco Alvarez has shown that he can swing the bat and the defense, the question marks that was going into the year, he put that to rest early. He's one of the best pitch framers in all of baseball. You see Shane Sons talking about it all the time. So, Parada, where's a spot for him if Francisco Alvarez is going to be that guy? Because I think we all expect him to be an all-star with the month that he put together. I think we expect him to have all-star games in his future. Maybe not this year, but maybe this year. And definitely in the future with the way that he's swinging the bat. And with the way he was the number 1 prospect in all of baseball last year. Kevin Parada, the Mets love him, but if you have Alvarez, who's just 21 years old, hitting the baseball like this in such a short period of time, he looks like he's ready to stay here for a while. So, and this Mets team, they're in a win now mode. I'd honestly do it. If for an elite pitcher, why not? Because at the end of the day, Scherzer, I'm confident now. I can officially hit the confident button on Max Scherzer. I'm going to hit the confident button on Kodai Senga. Justin Verlander, I'm going to hit the confident button that he'll figure it out. Cookie Carrasco, I'm still not confident in. And then with Quintana coming back, I'm not really confident in him. McGill, he was putting together a good string of starts, but really his last couple of starts, he's looked like Tyler McGill. And then David Robertson obviously got sent down pretty quick because he was just dog water. So, if Kevin Parada means a high-end starting pitcher at the deadline, I'd say yes. But if it's like a middle of the rotation guy, nah. I say keep him or even package him in a trade for potentially Ohtani. Now, I know a lot of Mets fans don't like hearing that we want to trade for Ohtani just yet, but I mean, if there's this belief that he could potentially go over to just over to the LA Dodgers, Cohen might feel that pressure that he might need to pull the trigger and sign him for an extension. But I don't think if we were to trade for Ohtani this year, I don't think it would involve Francisco Alvarez or Brett Beatty, who are the only two that I really wouldn't mind in a trade for Ohtani. Anybody else, I'm okay with trading for Ohtani because that means if that means we get Ohtani for long term afterwards too, we would have to keep him. It couldn't be a rental. So as long as we keep Beatty and Alvarez, I would love to trade for Ohtani, but that's a dream. That's a dream. But Kevin Parada in a package for Shane Bieber, yes or no? Yes. I think Alvarez and Parada can be in the same lineup down the road. Now, do you think would one of them DH? Alvarez DH, Parada DH? Which one would you think would DH? But I don't know. Shane Bieber, let me bring up his numbers right now. I would personally think I would pull the trigger. Shane Bieber this year, 4-3 in 12 games, 3.72 ERA. You look at his last couple of starts, 7 earned runs against the Baltimore Orioles. So that definitely spiked his ERA up a little bit. His ERA before that start was just a 3.04. And he's a guy against the New York Mets. He went 8 innings, 2 hits, only let up 2 earned runs. Against the St. Louis Cardinals, another good team, 6.2 innings. That's a playoff team right there, the St. Louis Cardinals. I'm going to expect them to get things going soon, even though they're only 4th, I think, in the NL Central right now. But I expect the St. Louis Cardinals to get things going. They're good. Against the Yankees, he went 8 innings, only 5 hits, 2 earned runs. That's a playoff team for sure. Against the Yankees on April 10th, 7 innings, 2 earned runs. So they saw him twice, and he still did very good. So Shane Bieber, yeah, I kind of like it. And Bieber is only 28, though. I like that. That is. And Alvarez, you would like him at the DH. Now, Alvarez, here's the thing. I'm afraid. Mike Piazza defensively, he wasn't the best, but it didn't matter because Mike Piazza was the best offensive catcher every year, basically. He was in the league. So, Francisco Alvarez, he's getting all these comparisons to Mike Piazza. Now, if you're telling me, listen, I've seen the hype before. It's New York. He's a catcher. He hits bombs. I've seen it before. I've seen it before with a lot of players. I've seen Ike Davis get hyped up. I've seen Lucas Duda get hyped up. So, now listen, I trust Alvarez a lot more than I trust in Ike Davis or Lucas Duda. But all I'm saying is I'm not going to buy into him being a Hall of Fame catcher, Mike Piazza. That's a lot of pressure. So I'll be hearing that talk a lot, especially on the radio with WFAN, dude. All the time they compare this guy to Mike Piazza. Let's slow down. Now, you're saying DH. I kind of like that spot for him because sometimes you see catchers they come out when they're very young, they rake. But down the road, obviously, catching is a lot on your knees. And I'm not going to say it doesn't slow down your hitting. Because Buster Posey, let's be real, one of the best catching hitters of all time. Of all time. Now, you look at his career numbers towards the end of his career, he slowed down. His power numbers slowed down. Did that have to do with squatting every single night? I'm not going to say it didn't. Now, if we think Francisco Alvarez isn't just, as I explained, he's not just a good hitter for a catcher. He's a good hitter. He's a great hitter in the majors, which is rare. It's very rare. So, do I want to risk Francisco Alvarez's power numbers down the road? Or do we want to make this guy like a DH and maybe make him pick up another glove? Not necessarily first base, but the guy's got a cannon. I'm not saying he's going to be our starting third baseman, but maybe experiment with him in a couple, in the offseason at third base or in the corner outfield spot. so he can become that DH and be flexible. Because really, if Alvarez was a full-time DH, I mean, I'm going to put up the numbers right here on the screen since May again. Imagine every single month that was the DH. 280, 7 home runs, 17 RBIs. And how many months we got in baseball? We got April, we got May, June, July, August, September, a little bit of October. So I'm not going to add October. I'll do 6 times 7, right? Basic math. That's 42 home runs in a year. That's a lot of pressure, but I'm not going to say he can't do it. He looks like he can become a 40-plus home run guy. He does. And is that a lot for a catcher? Hell yeah. Hell yeah, it's a lot. So I wouldn't be opposed to making Kevin Parada the catcher in the future and having Francisco Alvarez be the full-time DH and then catch here and there. Maybe play third, maybe play a corner outfield spot because he's got a cannon. But if that means that we can extend Francisco Alvarez offensive years, because like I said, you saw Buster Posey's numbers drop. You saw, who else is a catcher? Salvador Perez, even his numbers are dropping. So there's a lot of catchers. Salvador Perez is still elite though. But there's a lot of catchers who do fall off. I mean, Gary Sanchez. He was a guy who had 30-plus home runs just a couple years ago for the Yankees. Now look at him. Now Francisco Alvarez is light years ahead of Gary Sanchez because he's more of a complete hitter. But listen, I'm not going to say this guy's Mike Piazza just yet, but I am going to say he has 40-plus home run potential. So I do agree with Chris. I think if Kevin Parada is that good and he can offer another elite bat and why not find a spot for him? And if that means Alvarez can become a full-time DH, especially if we miss out on Ohtani in the offseason, because everyone talks about Ohtani as the next DH. Well, Alvarez, you see it right there, 280 in May, 7 home runs across 6 months would be 42 home runs. That's some elite numbers. And do we think Francisco Alvarez can make the NL All-Star team this year? That's another question. Do we think he can do it? If he can replicate his month of May into June, maybe into July a little bit, do we see this guy maybe getting the All-Star nod once he gets qualified, once he gets those numbers up? But yeah, the Mets are looking good. The sweep over the Phillies really gives you confidence. Francisco Alvarez, he's giving you confidence. Obviously, we want to see Vientos play a little bit more. Beatty too. He was 1 for 4 today, so that was nice to see him swing the bat a little bit better than he has. But we're just 3.5 games back to the Atlanta Braves. We got them upcoming on the schedule. Koda at home against Toronto, so we know we're winning 1 out of 3 at least. 1 out of 3 at least. And if we can go into the Atlanta series just 3 games back, why not? Why can't the Mets sweep the Atlanta Braves? I know the Atlanta Braves look like at sometimes the best team in all of baseball, but we're not that far behind. We are not that far behind. So I think that we can do it. Also, I'm going to put it up right here. Let's talk about my guy Lindor. With runners in scoring position this year, I got to hand it to him. He's done nothing but produce. See it right there, 286 batting average, over 25 RBIs, and 855 OPS. Now, obviously, the batting average and the on-base percentage is way too low right now. But the Mets are in a good spot. He's doing his job with runners in scoring position. He's playing elite defense. Elite defense. There's a lot of plays. He's bailing out the pitchers a lot. I'll just put it that way. He's bailing out the pitchers a lot. So, I can hate on him all I want, but I gotta hand it to him. With runners in scoring position, Lindor is a dog. Now, I'm hoping in the second half or soon that he can start to lift things up, just like Pete Alonso too, because I love how many home runs Pete Alonso has been hitting, but the guy hit 270 last year. I don't want Pete Alonso to turn into just a Joey Gallo from a couple years ago. I want Pete Alonso to be a complete hitter. I'm not saying he has to be Aaron Judge, but 270, if we can get that back up. Now, if he hits 60 plus home runs, I'll shut my mouth. He can hit 230. But I wouldn't mind if he got his batting average back up above 250. And same thing with Lindor, raise that batting average. But with runners in scoring position, he's done the job. And that's what you want. And like I said, the defense that he brings night in and night out, he saves the pitcher's asses. There's no other better way to put it. So Lindor, I think, Nelson always alludes to it. He's a second half player. So hopefully we will see him to get going soon. And really what we're looking for is postseason. Make the postseason. And what are you going to do in the postseason? So Lindor can suck all year. But if he shows up in clutch spots with runners in scoring position and the Mets make the playoffs and he does that same thing with runners in scoring position in the playoffs, Lindor's a dog. That's what you want. That's what players get paid the big bucks for. To come up in the clutch spots. So definitely want to see Lindor get going. Definitely want to see Alonso get going a little bit more. But what they have been providing with the home runs, the RBIs with runners in scoring position, that's exactly what you want out of those two guys. And then Mark Canha, he lifted us up these past two games, 2 home runs, 6 RBIs in 2 days. That's what you want out of the bottom of the lineup. Somebody new every day in the bottom of the lineup. It doesn't have to be Mark Canha every day. It doesn't have to be, and Daniel Vogelbach, I can't believe I'm saying his name. It doesn't have to be Daniel Vogelbach every day. Why is he still on the Mets? I don't know. It's a big talking point, obviously, but Vogelbach sucks. He shouldn't be on the Mets. Daniel Vogeldouche sucks. He sucks. He's stealing Mark Vientos' at-bats. Vientos with a sac fly today, too, when he pinch hit for him. And Vogie wouldn't be able to do that because Vogie doesn't swing the bat. Vogie's got to go. Mark Canha can stay. He's a good bench piece and a spot starter. Starlin Marte, we'd love to get him going a little bit more, obviously, but he has been a little bit. But really, pitching gets going. Lineup is a new guy every night. Alonso and Lindor come up in the clutch spots. Nimmo's been raking all year. McNeil, he's not a 300 hitter right now, but he's still one of the best hitters in the game. So you just need this pitching to be who they are. That's really all the Mets need to do. And with Atlanta coming up, they can take this division right back. And they can change the narrative of this whole season just like that. We could be talking about the New York Mets very differently in about 10 days. Beat the Blue Jays, take 2 out of 3, and let's see how we can dance with the Atlanta Braves. And maybe we can just get things going. We're a win streak away. Or a hot stretch away. Give us like a 15-3 run, a 15-5 run. And we're right there. We are right there. So don't give up, Mets fans. In fact, I don't think any Mets fan has given up. I think Mets fans have entered back in the chat and said, yo, we can freaking do this. We're in a playoff spot at the season ended today, which is what you want. And you got the stars that can get the job done in the big spots. Now, Scherzer, he needs to rebound from last year. He needs his redemption. Alonso, he wants to prove himself as not just a regular season beast, but as a postseason beast. Lindor, like I said, he has a big postseason. You can forget about every single regular season. Have a postseason moment. That's all it is. Just look at it. Carlos Beltran struck out. Bases loaded. Struck out looking. He had a great career with the Mets. And we just associate him with that. But you have big moments with the Mets. Matt Harvey. I know he lost that game in the World Series. But he was dominating for 8 innings. And that 2015, it was memorable. And now look at the guy. He really had 3 good seasons with the Mets, and we regard him as a beast. Show up in the big moments, and Mets fans will love you. We got another comment right here. If Carrasco can replace, if Carrasco can replicate the last 2 starts, I like this team down the stretch of the season. Yes, I do too, especially with Jose Quintana coming back. He had a sub-3 ERA last year in the American League. Now, if he can give you innings, that's huge, be it 4 or 5. But Cookie's the guy who we're really looking at because he's the guy who's kind of been every start. He's kind of auditioning of is he going to stay on this team or not. Now, I know they picked up his team option in the offseason. It's a lot of money, over $10 million. But he sucked. He sucked in the beginning of the year since he came back from the IL. But his last 2 starts, he's been pretty good. So if he can just keep that going, that's what you want. That's what you want. And then really it's just Verlander's got to be Verlander. Scherzer, he's Scherzer again. Kodai, replicate the home starts on the road. And then we just need that 5th starter. Hopefully it's Jose Quintana. And then, I think the plus part about having Carrasco now start to get things going a little bit, getting Quintana back in the middle of the season, and if we can acquire like a high-end pitcher, like you said, potentially Shane Bieber at the trade deadline, I don't know who we'd have to give up. Maybe Parada, maybe not, but that would be a dominant 6-man rotation. And that's what might benefit Kodai Senga. That's what might benefit Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander. So, I'm not saying I'm not going to be completely off on Carrasco, but Chris, you bring up a great point. I do like this team's chances down the rest of the road because, they're built on pitching. That's what they're built on. They missed out on Correa, that third piece in the lineup that could really put this team over the hump as one of the best teams in baseball, undoubtedly, even though Correa sucked so far. It's really Lindor and Alonso who are the 2 guys that Mets fans look at to produce. Now, Nimmo has been producing, and now we're probably going to look at him a little bit more now with the contract too. But really, it's the pitching that we are built on. It is Verlander. It is Scherzer. It is Kodai. It is Carlos Carrasco, who they bet on. It is Jose Quintana, who, when he comes back, you want to see him perform. So, and even the bullpen, Adam Ottavino and David Robertson, I haven't mentioned them yet. They've been lights out the past few games. Really all year they've been great. David Robertson especially. And then Brooks Raley, this series he looked good. The bullpen looked good this series. So as long as this pitching can keep bullpen and starters as a whole, pitching staff has to show up. Because the lineup, we all know, it's going to score 2 runs some nights. But as long as the pitching shows up, this Mets team will win. So let's hop away from the Mets. Let's get into some other stuff. Let's get into the NBA Finals. I'm going to break it down not for too long, but Jokic is just unstoppable. Second player in NBA history to record a triple-double in his NBA Finals debut. Jamal Murray, most underrated player in basketball. Now, this was going into today. Now, they definitely raised that after what Jokic and Murray both did tonight. Can we start talking about Jokic and Murray as potentially one of the best duos of all time? If they win a ring together, now, I put out a Shaq and Kobe tweet. Obviously, it's going to be very hard to catch Shaq and Kobe. But, with the way that they look, Jamal Murray, even in the playoffs, he has a history of showing up in the postseason. And Nikola Jokic, he looks like the best. He is the best player in the world. There's nobody better at the game of basketball in the NBA than Nikola Jokic. And nobody on the Miami Heat can guard him. 27 points, 10 rebounds, 14 assists from Jokic. And then, dude, Jamal Murray, he had 23 points in the first half. 23 points in the first half, 10 assists. He really just, he changes the way that he can play. He's on in the first half. And then in the second half, they want to guard him a little bit tighter. Okay, he's going to dish it out more. shot 50% from the field today. And then Jokic, 8 of 12 from the field. He only missed 4 shots, 10 of 12 from the free throw line. He was getting there a lot today. And then from 3, he had only 1 3, but you already know that Jokic, he's going to be pulling a lot more threes. And then Michael Porter Jr., he had a very good first half, kind of slowed down a little bit in the second half. But, I mean, as a whole, this Denver Nuggets team, Caldwell Pope, he's really kind of reinvented his game a little bit, outside of the bubble year with the Lakers. He's kind of been an under the radar guy, and now he's kind of cemented himself as a valuable role player in this league again, and he's putting himself on the map again with the Denver Nuggets. And then Aaron Gordon, I mean, when he was with the Orlando Magic, obviously he had a lot of expectations after the dunk contest and everything, putting on a show for the fans. So for him to finally get not necessarily living up to the hype, but he's a very big piece on one of the best team in basketball right now. A very big piece on the best team in basketball. So you look at the starting lineup of the Denver Nuggets and the guys on the bench, I'm not surprised they're here. And you look at Jokic, I mean, when we talk about at the end of his career, he's going to be a top 10 player. He might be a top 5 player. He's that good. He's Shaq in the paint. Maybe not Shaq in the paint, but maybe I think he would have been able to play in that era of basketball, the physicality that he brings to the game. He just lowering his shoulder at everybody. Jokic is a dog, dude. That's the type of guy that you want on the New York Knicks. He'll never be, though. He will never be. He's probably going to be a Denver Nugget for life. If they ever let him go, that would be the biggest mistake in sports franchises history, because I really do think Jokic is going to be one of the best to ever do it. He's already won multiple MVPs, likely going to win the NBA Finals MVP when they sweep the Miami Heat. And yes, my prediction is the Denver Nuggets in 4. Because Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray, they are one of the best duos in NBA history. You could start putting them up there in that conversation with Shaq and Kobe. They're nowhere near better, but they're in that conversation of best duo of all time. Now, who are we thinking of duos? Pippen and Jordan, obviously, elite duo. Steph and Clay, Splash Brothers, elite duo. Shaq and Kobe, another elite duo. Stockton with his boy, why am I blanking right now? Karl Malone, another elite duo. So where are we going to rank Jamal Murray and Jokic? Look at the numbers that they're putting up. I know we always talk about Nikola Jokic, yes, and as we should, but Jamal Murray, man, he is the most underrated player in basketball, undoubtedly. In the playoffs this year, in the 2023 playoffs, he's averaging over 27 a night. He's averaging over 5 assists a night, over 5 rebounds a night. He's shooting over 35% from 3. He's shooting over 45% from the field. And then you flip to Jokic. He's averaging just under 30 points. Scored 27 tonight, but going into tonight, Jokic was averaging 29.9 points, 13.3 rebounds, 10.3 assists on 47% shooting from 3 and 53% shooting from the field. Jokic is the best player on the planet right now, undoubtedly. I don't want to hear Kevin Durant. I don't want to hear LeBron James. I don't want to hear Giannis. I don't want to hear Steph Curry. Nobody is better than Nikola Jokic. And what him and Jamal Murray are doing, they are cementing themselves as one of the best duos in NBA history. They're putting themselves up there with the Splash Brothers. They're putting themselves up there with Pippen and Jordan. They are putting themselves up there with Shaq and Kobe. They are that good. And Jokic, arguably, one of the best to ever do it. One of the best big men to ever do it. And now, if he can add that NBA Finals to his resume, if he retired right after this, he'd be in the Hall of Fame. And I expect a lot more finals to come, because you look at this Nuggets team, they ain't going anywhere. Jamal Murray, he ain't leaving. Nikola Jokic, obviously he ain't leaving. They ain't letting Aaron Gordon go. Michael Porter Jr., he might want to seek out his own thing a little bit later, but why would he? Why would he? So, I mean, this team is just lights out. Lights out. I don't see the Heat getting Bam Adebayo. He had a great night. Cool. Jimmy Butler, though, let's talk about him a little bit. He was obviously ice cold today. Didn't really show up that much. Only 13 points, 6 of 14 from the field, 7 rebounds, 7 assists, minus 17. So Jimmy Butler kind of sucked tonight. They locked him up. They played great defense on him. Stephen A. Smith had a little bit of thing going on in First Take. Is Jimmy Butler harder to guard than LeBron James? Stephen A. Smith is out of his mind. Jimmy Butler is nowhere near the offensive player that LeBron James is. That was the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my entire life on ESPN. Bam Adebayo, though, he showed up, but he still shot the ball 25 times, and he missed 12 times. So he's not Nikola Jokic. And the Heat don't have a Jamal Murray. They don't have anybody that can guard Murray. They don't have anybody that can guard Nikola Jokic. And then Aaron Gordon, you double team Murray or Jokic, cool. Then that means Michael Porter Jr. and Aaron Gordon and Caldwell Pope. He only scored 7 points, but he's going to knock down shots as the series goes on, which might only be 3 more games. This Nuggets team is unstoppable. I'm not surprised to see him in the finals. They're really clicking. I mean, in the bubble, they were right there. They were right there against the LA Lakers. They barely lost that series. And if they won that series, they probably would have beat the Heat. They definitely would have beat the Heat. I changed my mind there. So I'm predicting a sweep. Jokic, Murray, one of the best duos to ever play in the game of basketball. They're right up there with Steph and Clay. Right up there with Pippen and Jordan. Right up there with Shaq and Kobe. And if they had a ring, and listen, they're going to add more. They are going to add more. This Nuggets team is that good. Let's get into some over-unders for the NFL season, though. We're going to start it off with the quarterbacks. Aaron Rodgers, 4,200 yards. This is my prediction for him. 26 passing touchdowns, 64% completion percentage. Daniel Jones, can he increase his numbers? 22 passing touchdowns, better than the 15 he threw last year. And I also added, since Danny Jones uses his legs a lot, 5 rushing TDs, which would put him at a total of 27. 1 over Aaron Rodgers, unless Rodgers can rush one in a couple times. 550 rushing yards, and then 3850 for the passing yards. So I'm taking over on both of these. I think Aaron Rodgers throws for over 4,200 yards, over 26 touchdowns. I think he has a 64% completion percentage or better. Daniel Jones, 3,850 yards. I'm taking it with Darren Waller being added, a full year of Isaiah Hodgson, Saquon Barkley. I expect that to get figured out. You know, the O-line obviously improving. Another year of Andrew Thomas that we're going to get to see. And then they added Jalen Hyatt too, who I got him in the over-unders as well. But drop in the comments. Let me know what you guys would hit for Aaron Rodgers and Daniel Jones. Would you hit the over or would you hit the under on any of these specific stats and why? But yeah, I think Jones definitely goes over. I think Rodgers is definitely expected to throw over 4,000 yards. 4,200 yards might be a little much, but I think he can do it. If he can get a 15 to 16 games in, I think he does it. I don't expect him to play 17 games. I really hope he doesn't have to. If we can bench him the last game of the season and that gives us a playoff spot, I love it. And then Daniel Jones, I think the Giants do get back to the playoffs. I'm not going to be surprised if they're right up there fighting for the NFC East. I know it's a hot take, but the Eagles did lose a lot of players. They lost a lot of key offensive linemen. They lost CJ GJ on the defensive side, Miles Sanders on the offensive side, obviously. They lost key coaches. The Giants, they didn't lose any of their they didn't lose their offensive coordinator or their defensive coordinator. And they kept the majority of their guys, you know. So that's huge. Darius Slayton, obviously, a guy who they retained. Daniel Jones, obviously, they retained. And Saquon. So that's huge for them. Leonard Williams. And on the defensive side, you know, look at Leonard Williams. You look at Kayvon Thibodeau, another year out of him. You look at Azeez Ojulari. They got a really good defensive line. And then you also have Dexter Lawrence, one of the best defensive linemen in all of football. Then Bobby Okereke on now a linebacker with the Giants. He was a top 10 linebacker in the NFL last year. And then obviously Xavier McKinney, when he is on the field, the Giants are much better on the defensive end with Xavier McKinney. So let's see what we got for these. Jones over on TDs. Chris is going over for the 22 TDs. I'm definitely going over. I think he throws a lot more. I think with Darren Waller too, he throws a lot more. And Isaiah Hodgson, a full year out of him. I'm really excited to see what this guy can do. What can he actually provide now that he's given an opportunity to really rock out and be not a number one option necessarily, but a top 3, definitely a top 2 option for sure. Yeah, I agree. I think he's going to get 27 to 30 total touchdowns, passing and rushing. That's what I would guess for Daniel Jones in 2023. Let's get into the running backs now. Only stuck to 2, the big names, Saquon Barkley and Breece Hall. Saquon Barkley, high expectations off of what he did last year now. 1,100 yards, 12 touchdowns. I think he can do it. I'm going to take the under on the touchdowns, but I'm taking the over on the yards. 1,100 yards, Saquon Barkley. I'm going to hit the over. Breece Hall, 1,000 yards, 8 touchdowns. I'm taking the under on the touchdowns. I'm going to take the under. With Michael Carter, with Bam Knight, I think he's not going to get as many touches as we expect him to get, especially coming off the ACL injury. But I think you saw him with the yards per carry last year, one of the best in the NFL. And he was the leading rusher his senior year in the NCAA. So I expect more than 1,000 yards for Breece Hall. So I'm going to take the over for Breece Hall and Saquon on yards, but the under for both on touchdowns. Giants supposedly doing their homework on D-Hop. Now, if the Giants get D-Hop, Daniel Jones is throwing more than 25 passing touchdowns. No way he doesn't. And if the Giants get D-Hop, that means very good things for Isaiah Hodgson. Because if he's a number 2 rather than a number 1, he's going to get a lot more open looks. I'll tell you that. So speaking of the wide receivers, let's get into the wide receivers. The G-Men will start off with first Isaiah Hodgson. Right now, I got him at 800 yards, 7 touchdowns. Darren Waller, 800 yards, 7 touchdowns. Darius Slayton, I got him at 700 yards, 3 touchdowns. And then Jalen Hyatt, the new man, the rookie, 550 yards, 3 touchdowns. Now, if Daniel Jones can do this for all these guys, he's going to have a good year. A very good year. So, Isaiah Hodgson, let's start off with him. I am going to take the under on the yards. I think he'll have 700 plus, 800 plus. I don't think he'll eclipse it. 7 receiving touchdowns. I think he can eclipse that, though. I think he's going to be a big red zone target for him. So I think he can eclipse 7 passing touchdowns. But unfortunately, I don't think Hodgson will have more than 800 yards in 2023. Darren Waller, 800 yards. I'm taking the over on that one. If he gets a full healthy season in, we saw him back-to-back years with Vegas. He had back-to-back seasons with 1,100 plus yards. So 800 yards, that's light work for Darren Waller if he's healthy all year. 7 touchdowns, I say yes to. He's one of the best tight ends in football, top 5 tight end in football when he's healthy. So Darren Waller, I'm taking the over on both. Darius Slayton, 700 plus yards, 3 plus receiving touchdowns. I'm going under on both. Slayton, I'm not buying in too heavy on a 2023. I think he has his moments. But I think he'll have like 600 plus yards. I don't think he has many touchdowns because he's not a big red zone target for Daniel Jones. And then Jalen Hyatt, the new man, 550 and 3 touchdowns. I'll take the over on the 3 touchdowns. I think he's going to explode for at least 3 touchdowns. Somehow, in some way, he's quick as hell. So maybe a quick screen pass, run after catch. I think you can expect a lot out of Jalen Hyatt. He's very good with the run after catch in college. 550 receiving yards. I think he might do it. I think he's got a lot of potential. He's very quick, had a very good 40-yard dash time. Like I said, one of the best in the nation in run after catch last year. So Jalen Hyatt, I'm going to take the over for both. I'm very high on Jalen Hyatt. Now let's flip to the Jets wide receivers. I only did 3 for them. Garrett Wilson, 1,150 yards, 8 receiving touchdowns. Allen Lazard, 750 yards, 7 touchdowns. McCole Hardman, 650 yards and 5 touchdowns. I'm taking the over for Garrett Wilson and Allen Lazard, but I am taking the under for 650 yards and 5 touchdowns for McCole Hardman. I think McCole Hardman will probably be 500 plus, maybe like three receiving touchdowns. But Allen Lazard, 750 yards, 7 touchdowns, and Garrett Wilson, 1,150 yards and 8 touchdowns. I think that's expected for them, especially with the 4-time MVP, Aaron Rodgers, throwing them the football. So I'm excited for this season, 2023. I mean, you got to be looking forward for it, whether you're a Giants fan or a Jets fan. A lot of expectations now for both these guys. Obviously, the Jets, they're in that Super Bowl or bust mode. And the Giants, I mean, they're in a playoff or bust mode, and you want to see them do good in the postseason because they were 2 wins away from reaching the Super Bowl. Just 2 wins away. It sounds crazy when you say it, but it's true. Now, you beat up on the Minnesota Vikings in round 1, but the Philadelphia Eagles, they kind of gave you basically a reality check. So now, I said it before, the Eagles have lost guys. The Giants haven't lost guys. The Giants have gained guys. So maybe we can expect the Giants to do a little bit better. Dallas, they're so confusing. I really don't know what Dallas is. Dallas is the weirdest team in football my entire life I've seen them play. They look like an elite regular season team for about 7 to 8 weeks, and then they just suck in the playoffs every time. And they always have good quarterbacks. Tony Romo was a great quarterback when I was growing up. Dak Prescott, I mean, he's a very good quarterback. But, man, in the big spots, they know how to screw things up. But, yeah, I'm not going to spend – that's all I'm going to spend on the Jets and the Giants today. And I'm actually going to wrap up the show for today. Probably going to hit one in tomorrow or Saturday. Working on getting Chris on the pod this Friday or Saturday. Going to be moving up this studio up to Saratoga. So say goodbye to the Prestige Plumbing Studio, and we will get a new studio for the next show. But for those who are listening, thank you. Shout out Chris, CP New York Sports Pod. I'm going to pop up his comment one more time for the other viewers. If you want to see his page, go check him out. He's got good stuff going on. A lot of post-game coverage of the Mets. He did post-game coverage of the Knicks. He did post-game coverage of the NBA Finals today, I think, as well. So make sure you go check him out. And then shout out my other guys as well that always show me support. Eddie Presti, shout out you guys. Morning Brew Sports, you guys always showing support. Shout out the Let's Talk Sports guys, all of you guys. Hector, Blunt Thoughts, always love it. Top Bunk, shout out you guys as well. And then, of course, my guy Nelson, Amish Country Met fan as well. You know, UNCP New York Sports Pod. You know, always love collabing with you two. You know, always a great thing. And then we're going to be working on getting Hector from Blunt Thoughts coming on the pod too, probably sometime next week. Got to get him on the pod. Got to get his actual, live blunt thoughts of this New York Mets team. Maybe we can catch him after a Mets game sometimes next week because he does have season tickets and he goes basically every other night. Hector's second home is Citi Field. But thanks for watching today, guys. I really appreciate it. It really means a lot. Love you guys. I'm out.